However, has the street liked the delivery from Chola? I think NBFCs are on a run like never before. Mr. Vellayan Subbiah, he's the MD of the company, joins us right now on the show to talk about the numbers, to talk about, more importantly, how the next 12 to 24 months look like. Good having you, sir. Thanks so much for joining in. I could look at your quarter. I mean, the NI growth slightly lower than what people were working with. But is this an aberration? Do you think over a 12-month period, the growth on the NII would far surpass what you've done in the quarter gone by?
Yeah, definitely. Like the first quarter in our business tends to be the weakest quarter. The second half of the year is always the strongest. So most of the NI growth tends to come in the second half of the year, Nikunj. So, overall, we're very bullish in terms of how the quarter has gone and how we see the rest of the year playing out. Slight sluggishness on the HCV growth, but that's also because we've seen fairly phenomenal growth last year. But overall, we continue to be kind of very bullish for this year and for the next 12 to 24 months.
Okay, so let's talk about the net interest income. I know you are a conservative management, you always want to check on your growth. Is that the reason why in a quarter when other NBFCs have done very well, your NIMs your net interest income has only grown by about 14%?
Yeah, so I think there are a couple of kind of reasons for this, right? But basically, what happens is, the first quarter for us, like we said, kind of tends to be low. So when you're comparing with other NBFCs, obviously, if you're using Bajaj as a metric, Bajaj's business is very different, right? They've predominantly swung towards consumer durables. We are very driven by what happens with commercial vehicles. And in commercial vehicles, the first quarter is never a huge quarter for growth. So that tends to be the reason why net income is not as big a driver for us in the first quarter.
Right. Could you also... Yeah, sure. Could you also talk about your AUMs? They grew at 18%, disbursements at 30%. What's the outlook going forward, and how will the product mix change substantially eventually?
Yeah, so I think this level of AUM growth and disbursement growth we can definitely sustain through the year. When I look at products, there is a slight shift. When we look at the vehicles business, we tend to kind of move between what is actually kind of growing in that particular point in time. So I think we'll see a slight shift away from heavies. We'll see a slight shift into lights and also into cars and MUVs. Our used vehicle business continues to pick up at a very good pace, and we're quite keen on that growth. So I think that the growth there is also going to be fairly significant. On the other sides, I think the housing loans business and the SME business also are going to see good growth this year, albeit from very small bases. So overall, I think it's going to be a shift towards some of these newer products that's going to drive some of the growth.
Now, let's look at individual categories. At what rate do you think your CV finance business will grow? At what rate do you think your loan against property business will grow? Because these are the two main businesses for Chola.
Yeah. So if you take CV, we're predicting 30% plus disbursement rates. Now, if you take that, obviously the way CV and HE or kind of the loan against property business work are a bit inverted. So in the LAP business, we'll see lower disbursement growth, but the asset growth for both businesses, I think, will be in the range of about 20%.
Right. Just one final question from mine, at least. Your provisioning has declined and your NPAs have largely remained stable on a sequential basis. What is the outlook for asset quality going forward?
Yeah, so definitely, I think that's a great question. And asset quality, as you can see, is getting better. So that's very encouraging for us. Now, monsoons tend to be the toughest time. And, with some of the heavy rains, that tends to be a bit of a challenge. So even if there's a slight, we can only maintain, or there's a slight dip this quarter, definitely I think the second half is going to be much better for us in terms of asset quality improvement. So we can see that trend of, credit losses continuing to come down and NPAs remaining stable or coming down as well, continue in the second half of the year, which I think is key for us.
So I'm going to get closing comments from you, and I haven't got a chance to interact with you in a long while. So I'll use this opportunity to extend my interaction. When we interacted in our Mumbai office, and that time when you were visiting us, that day I remember you got the license to become a bank, and you celebrated that on the 18 Hour newsroom floor. After 1 quarter, I realized that you've decided not to go ahead with the ambitions of becoming a bank. Why is that?
Yeah, so it's a business that we looked at quite keenly, and we were very kind of excited by the opportunity. But when we looked at how much capital that business would take and what it could potentially return for us, we basically felt like it might be better to kind of plow that capital back into the main business and grow this business instead. So it was purely kind of an opportunity cost, between the use of capital at our end that swung the decision.
So you will remain in NBFC. As of now, there are no plans to really change the basic structures, what I want to understand from you. Because our initial estimates were that the face of the company would change if you become a bank, but looks like it's status quo there now.
Yes, I'd say right now it's status quo. Now, obviously, as RBI continues to make full banks on tap and how those licenses pan out, we'll have to see. But I will definitely say that, we see a lot of legs still in the NBFC model. And so at our current size and scale, we feel like this is a good model to scale our current business.
You say right now you are again confusing me. Will you become a bank or not? Let me ask you a straightforward question.
So I'd like to say that in the next 3 to 4 years, we're comfortable as an NBFC.
Okay, I was looking for that answer. Appreciate your time, and thank you for joining us. And by the way, we'll be happy to know that your stock is nearing an all-time high.
Oh, thanks. Thanks so much, Nikunj.
Okay, that's the word then coming in from the Chola Finance Management. KC International is the other one which came out with its earnings, and we will address them in just seconds from now. Let's just walk you through what the performance has been. The pad is shown